Hi, thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to utilize the eDailog Visual Designer. It is an option when you're creating a new dialog. So we're going to start out under the Dialogs tab, clicking on the Select button. We'll be presented with this screen where we can create folders, we can go into a particular folder, and we can create a new dialog. I'm going to go ahead and give it a name. I'm going to go ahead and do a dialog type, and for this purpose I'm simply going to leave it as dialog, active or inactive, and then put in a more in-depth description. To show you how the Visual Dialog Designer actually works, I'm going to start with a classic dialog where it's only going to render a single page. We're going to add the other pages while we're using the designer. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on Create in the upper right-hand corner. And it's going to take us inside the dialog properties. Now in a normal dialog, you would scroll down and you would begin adding and editing and creating new pages down here. Where we're going to go is we're going to actually come up here and click on the Dialog Visual Modeler. Please note that after this is checked, it cannot be unchecked. So make sure that you do want to use the Visual Designer. Once this has been checked, you get an extra button over here that says Launch Visual Dialog Designer. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that link. It's going to take me into a Visual Dialog Designer that utilizes Microsoft Silverlight. If you have not installed Silverlight, you will need to install it before you can use the designer. It will take just a moment for it to actually render, but what it's doing is it's loading the diagram. You can see that I have my very first page right here, and I would go in and modify the properties. To do that, you double-click, and you're given the page properties. So let's change the page title. We're going to call this Training 123. Of course, you can put in a more in-depth description. And what do you want the Submit button to say? I'm going to say Register Now. Field merge still an option. Do you want to place in a triggered email, yes or no? If you say yes, then this becomes enabled for you to choose your trigger. Map to CRM, yes. Final page, I'm going to leave as no because I'm going to create a thank you page. I'm going to click on Next, and it's going to take me to, do you want to use a CAPTCHA? I can choose to use it by checking this box, or I can skip over it. And I'm going to skip over it. I'm then presented with the area to create my fields. So I would select New Field, or I can use the Contact Us template. I'm going to select a new field here. Click on Create. And these are the same properties that you would see within the dialog. Name, let's do email. Question, how is it going to render to the end user? Where is it going to be mapped to? What type of field? Is it an event, and will it overwrite the value? Click on Save. Let's go ahead and create another one. So new field, click on Create. For this one, we'll do first name. These properties are exactly the same way that you would create the questions through the normal process without using the Dialog Designer. Choose first name, edit text, overwrite, and save. You can see if I click on Edit that I also have the Display button up here where I can modify the properties, I can apply a cascading style sheet, I can change the orientation. Okay. Once I'm done with the questions, I'm going to go ahead and click on Save. And you can see that it started my page. So it kept all my properties. Now this is Training 123. Now if I wanted another page to go after it, I'd grab Next Page and I'd drag and drop it. It immediately opens up the page properties asking you for some information. I'm going to say thank you. Submit button, there does have to be something here, but unless you're asking a question, it doesn't render anything. Map to CRM, yes. Final page, yes, this is going to be my final page. And auto-populate, I'm going to leave as yes as well. Click on Next, and we're not going to use the CAPTCHA. We don't have any questions. Click on Save, and now I have my second page. However, I still have nothing tying these two pages together, and that's where the logic comes in. Using the little X's that are appearing here, I can grab any of them and tie them to the page. It pops up the Decision and Actions window where I can choose my condition name. I'm going to say Go to Thank You. You can also add a condition here. by clicking on that. It'll say what form, what field, what operator, and the possible values. And I'm going to say contains an @ symbol, and save. You don't have to have a condition. If you don't have any conditions, then the system knows that immediately upon submission of page 1, it's going to be going to the thank you page. Click on Next, and you can choose to add to a trigger email from here as well. You can default to a particular owner, and then click on Save. And now I have my logic. You can see that if I were to move these around, that this is the logic outlined right here. If I wanted to add more pages, I would simply keep dragging over the next page. If I wanted it to go to a URL, I would grab it here, and I would say, where is this going to go? We'll say Sales Fusion. Click on Save. We're going to add in some logic here, so I'm going to grab my little logic button, and I'm going to say, if Jamie. We're going to add a condition, and we're going to say, on this page, for this field, the operator equals, and I'll use my name, Jamie. They're going to go to that URL. Click on Next, asking if you want to add to a trigger or default to a particular owner, and hit Save. I now have multiple logic. The great thing about this is that this is where you create all of it. If you're a very visual person, this will work out very nicely for you. It also is helpful if you're doing some advanced routing. A lot of times when people get into a lot of different pages and logic, it's easier for them to look at it in a diagram view rather than just staring at the pages. So another way that you can share this is you can export the diagram out to a PDF. I'm going to go ahead and just save it to my desktop. Click on Save, and it's now being saved. I can then go to my desktop. I can find that one that I just created, and you can see that it basically took a snapshot of the Silverlight design. Coming back to Sales Fusion, the one thing that you don't create in here is the skin or the look and feel of this particular dialog pages. To do that, you would have to hit Return, and let me just look at these. You have Save Diagram, you have Load Diagram, and then you have your PDF right there. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. It says it was saved, and then I'm going to return back out. To actually create the skin, you would still go into the pages here. So I'm going to open it up. I'm going to go to the skin, and this is where I would insert my skin. I can create it from scratch. I can insert a template. I can slurp it. I can copy from an existing dialog. Once you're done with your skin, just click on Save and Publish, and your dialog is finished. Again, the dialog is very easy to use. A couple things just to reiterate is that, one, once it is checked, you cannot uncheck it. Second thing is that you create all the page properties and the questions inside the designer, but the skin is actually created still here within the pages. We do have a great Learning Management Center. So if you are working on this and you run into a question, you can always reference the Learning Management Center here. If you've never been here before, you will need to create a new username and password for you to log in with. We also have our help manual here, which is an online reference that if you're running across a question and you need to answer it, type in questions, talks about dialogues and how do you create it and what are the question properties. You can also email support@salesfusion.com, or you can feel free to call the Sales Fusion Client Services number. It's located at the bottom left of every screen. As always, I thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.